everyone, and welcome to today's episode. We're going to be talking about Gelato at the Villa by Robin Jones Gunn. So, this one is a contemporary fiction novel, it's women's fiction, and it fits within the Christian fiction category. And it's also book two in Robin's Suitcase Sisters series. So, why did I want to read this one? Well, I've enjoyed reading Robin's books over the years, particularly her Sister Chick series. And I loved reading book one in the Suitcase Sisters series, which is Tea with Elephants, that's set in Kenya. And I have a book recommendation for that one at my blog, at my website at narelleatkins.com, and there's a link in the show notes. So let's talk about the book. Gelato at the Villa by Robin Jones Gunn is set in Italy. So we visit Venice and Tuscany and the Northern Lakes area. And it's a women's fiction story that's very much focused on the female friendship between our two main characters who are best friends. It's also a vacation story, and Italy is very much a character in the book and the gorgeous places we visit there. And the story also includes early church history and the culture in Italy as well. And we look at the spiritual and faith journeys of the characters because they really are pilgrims on a journey. And the story also looks at dealing with past hurts as well. So the first line from the story is this one. We didn't expect to love her. So, the her that we're talking about is actually Italy. And the prologue is technically, if you look at the timeline perspective, it happens after the story's ended. So, it's effectively an introduction that draws us into the story. And we meet Grace. So, the story is in single point of view. So, we are only in Grace's head for the whole story. So, she's our main character. And Grace is 40 years old or maybe a few years older. She's got a husband and daughter in California, and she's a medical receptionist. So at the start of the story, she's in a very high stress job. Her boss is an ophthalmologist, and she's worked with him for a long time, but there's been a few issues that have come up in recent times that have made this job very stressful. And Grace was also raised in the church. So she became a Christian when she was 8 years old and has walked with Jesus since that time. She's from a wealthy family, although since she married, she lives very much an ordinary middle class life. She doesn't have the airs and graces that her mother has. And when she was younger, she was fortunate to be able to travel a lot overseas with her parents, and she spent a lot of time traveling with her mother as well. And the prologue is Grace reflecting on her trip. And she goes on this trip with her best friend, who is Claire, and they've been friends for a few decades, and they really bonded over their love of books and reading and talked about traveling. And so they decided to get organized and go on a travel adventure together. So that introduces us to Claire. So she's the same age as Grace. She lives in California. She's also married with a daughter, and her job, she's a project manager for a construction company, which means when she's in Italy, she's fascinated by the architecture that she discovers is so different to California. So at the start of the story, Claire's grieving the loss of her parents, who have both passed in the previous 12 months. And she also has a very complicated relationship with God and has a lot of issues. And she's been struggling for quite a long time in terms of forgiving people who have betrayed her. So there's a lot of hurts and things that she's dealing with as well. So when the story opens in chapter one, we're in Grace's point of view for the whole story, and they've just landed in Italy and they're heading to their first stop in Venice. And of course, it's a travel story, so there's always going to be a few hiccups and a few unusual surprises that happen along the way as well. And very early on, we're introduced to food. So this is very much a foodie book, and there's a lot of food in the story, including gelato and pasta, which I really appreciated, all the foodie things. So there are a number of problems in this story because you can't have a story without problems, and no one has a perfect vacation that I've ever known anyway. And I've never had a perfect vacation with nothing going wrong. So they've left behind their problems in California and basically enjoying having some freedom to travel and please themselves and not be highly stressed like they normally are back home. And they really are pilgrims on a journey. And there's some people pleasing issues and caring too much about what other people think that need to be looked at by one of the characters. We also have our characters overcoming fears and also the healing from past hurts that I talked about before. So I absolutely love this story. The setting was just stunning and beautiful and historic, and the writing was so good that you really felt like from your armchair, you're actually in Italy experiencing what the characters are experiencing. You could smell what was going on. You could almost taste the food. It was very much a sensory read, and I just loved it. And there were so many treasures to discover with the history, with the architecture, the art, the churches, just the natural beauty, particularly when you're in Tuscany, which is just stunning, a place I would love to visit. And the characters. Our main characters had so much depth, and there was a lot of emotional baggage and stuff that they were dealing with in the story. And they were very much on an emotional and spiritual journey. And Grace and Claire's friendship, it really was challenged by things that happened in the story, and they were facing obstacles together, which was really fun to see as well. And it was lovely to see their beautiful friendship and the really deep bonds of love that they had for each other as well and care for each other. And the side characters and the minor characters that walk on the page were just delightful. There were some very quirky and interesting characters. And of course, there's always a couple of people that you come across that you think, oh, I'd never like to see that person again. But they were delightful and quirky and charming and so wise. It was really fun to get some of the nuggets of wisdom from some of these side characters. And of course, I love the food, the gelato, and we taste a lot of gelato in this book, and also the pasta. So when I was reading this book, the night that I'd planned to finish reading it, that late that afternoon, my fridge had died, so I'd had to order a new fridge to come the next day. So I'm farming out food to from my fridge to other people's fridges to store it. And I decided I'd do some cooking. So of course, since I'm reading all this about all this Italian food, I cooked up a beautiful vegetable pasta bake that ended up going in my chest freezer. So it inspired me to cook as well, this book as well, which was really fun. And I absolutely love the ending and the way all the story threads came together. It was just a really beautiful tapestry that I really appreciated, and especially the faith elements and how that all worked. So I would describe this one as having strong faith elements that are quite overt on the page. So it's not one where it's very subtle and you've got to really think about what's underlying the story. The faith elements are definitely front and center, but at the same time, they're organic and they're not preachy at all. They are very natural and make a lot of sense. And of course, when you're visiting churches and historic places relating to famous people from the early Roman times, then all these things will naturally come up as well. And Grace and Claire, in different ways, they were both really challenged to think about faith matters and to think about their relationship with God by their travel experiences and the people they came across and what they learned as well. So, my favorite book quote in the story is this one. Touches of the eternal seem to be the theme of our trip. So, this is Grace who's thinking this, and she's really challenged to think about her relationship with God and how God works in her life, and also how God works in the lives of others as well. And I just loved journeying with Grace in terms of her faith journey in the story. And also, Grace was reminded that God is always with her and He's always loving her and caring for her, and He doesn't abandon her. And in terms of the impact on me, this story, there were lots of smiles. There were some very laugh out loud, funny moments. And there were also some really poignant moments, particularly with the faith journey, because the faith elements were very much centered around forgiveness themes. That was a very prominent theme in the book. And there were stages in the story where I really did sit back and reflect and think about what was going on and what that meant. And I really enjoyed that. I like it when I read books that do challenge me to think as well. And I'm going to share another quote that I loved in the book. There are so many gems of wisdom. I could list about 10 different quotes if I had the time, but I've picked this one. Stories show us truth, beauty, and hope. Stories are a gift. This is why we must always give others the gift of our stories. And so, being a writer, I find that quote very encouraging, the importance and the value in sharing our writing in whichever way we do that. And this was a walk-on minor character who shared this. And as I said, there's a few of these characters that share these gems of wisdom. And there was so much I just loved in terms of just those little nuggets of truth that came out. It was just so fun. So in summary, I would recommend this book to readers who like women's fiction friendship stories, if you like vacation and travel stories, if you want to visit Italy in a book and learn about history and culture and food. You'll love this one. It's definitely a foodie book. And the gelato, if you want to read about gelato and all the different flavors that are very authentic to Italy, you'll love this one. And if you like a story that has strong faith elements that are very organic, and if you were to pull the faith out of the story would fall apart. That's how important the faith elements are in it. Then you'll love this one. And if you like reading stories that are very authentic in how they address some really deep-seated hurts, but in a way that's so sensitive, and it doesn't it's not something that would trigger a reader to read it. It was so sensibly written, a few things in the book. And so if you like your forgiveness themes to be quite prominent in the story, then you'll love this one as well. Thanks for joining me today. Does Gelato at the Villa sound like a book that you'd like to read? Have you read it? Have you read any other books in the series? What did you think? You can let me know. If you're listening on the podcast, you can send a text via a link in the show notes. If you're watching at YouTube, you can like the episode or leave a comment at YouTube. You can also email me at my website at my contact form at narelleatkins.com. And also, please subscribe at your favorite podcasting app or subscribe at YouTube if you've enjoyed listening to this episode, and then you'll receive a notification for when the next one drops and you won't miss any episodes. And also, if you've enjoyed this episode, please share the link with a friend, especially a friend who likes reading contemporary fiction and a friend who you think would enjoy reading Robin's books. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.